Welcome back to the 8th season of the North Central Washington MVP interview series brought to you by Career Connect Washington and the Apple STEM Network. I'm your host, Carrie Horning, Career Connected Learning Specialist with the NCESD 171. Our goal today is to introduce our community partners throughout North Central Washington to one another, and a win looks like each of you leaving with a greater understanding of the work being done throughout our region. So grab your lunch, sit back, and get ready for an extra dose of professional nourishment. I'm so excited to welcome Marie Valle, 2024 North Central Regional Classified Employee, School Employee of the Year. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Carrie.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Well, let me do a little introduction here. This is where I give just a little bit of an introduction to my guest, and then we'll get into the questions. Right. So Maria started at the Quincy School District in 2011, previously serving as migrant student advocate and migrant recruiter. Currently, she is the Family and Community Outreach Coordinator at Quincy School Districts. And let me just say, go Jacks.
Go
As a fellow alumni myself, and my husband and my kids, I'm not biased at all. So anyways, Maria is family centered. She loves a good road trip and currently is a bit of a baking phenom. Making fun with her son and family is both relaxing and also quite possibly a little friendly family competition to see who can make the best. So I actually love that. You know, I'm a little bit competitive, not as much as people think, but I do love a good competition. So that's fun stuff, Maria. Thank you. Now, are you ready to kick this off?
Yes, for sure.
All right. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in this work and working for Quincy School District.
So I started, like you mentioned before, you started in 2011. And initially, when I started as a migrant student advocate, I worked with elementary students.
Mm.
So initially, that's how I started. And then, slowly I started working with Sandy Trevino. She used to be the recruiter at that time. And I started working with her, and she was like, you would be really good at doing this job. And I'm planning on retiring. And so she kind of guided me, and she was like a mentor to help me get into the recruitment side of things. So that was really fun because I learned so much from her. And after being in the recruitment world in the migrant program and getting to work with the families and enjoying the time that we were spending with families, I think as a recruiter, you spend more time with the parents than you do with the students, but you still learn so much from the parents about their students, which makes it still, it's super awesome to see how they have such a great connection and, helping them build a better connection sometimes. So I was really having a blast in doing that job, but I felt like I was missing something. I felt like I wanted to do that job, not just with migrant families, because I feel like the job that we were doing was something that could benefit others. And so when this position became available, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. Now I can do what I do, but district wide. So I applied and I got hired. And so here I am currently.
I love it. That's
Yeah,
a great story. And you really did have a great mentor. She was amazing for
I
sure.
did. Yeah.
So, well, excellent. So I know for a fact that you work in a lot of different programs, wear a lot of different hats. But can you tell our audience a little bit about some of those programs? What are they? And then we'll dig a little bit deeper into each one.
Yeah, so well, the migrant education program itself, I do the parent component of the migrant education program right now as a parent outreach coordinator. And then we also have what we call the parent advisory committees within the district, which is it kind of the framework from the migrant program worked for that. And so we were like, you know what, let's do this. So I'll give you guys a little bit more details about that as we go on. But we also have, from that, we have the family superintendent advisory committees. So these are all different ways parents can share their voice with the district, within the district. And then we have the parent liaisons. So as you can tell, it's all kind of related to the family engagement. But yeah, those are just some of the things that we do, that I do in the district.
Yeah, well, like I said, wearing many hats, which, I see this a lot in education. But that right there, knowing that you have more on top of it is a little bit mind blowing. But today we're going to focus on those. So, like I mentioned, I want to get a little bit deeper into each one of those. So, let's start with the Migrant Education Parent Advisory Committee. How does that committee really support migrant students and their families? And what role do parents play in kind of shaping that program?
So the role of the parent advisory, the Migrant Parent Advisory Committee is to, they will be the ones that are planning the program in
Mhm.
the district. They implement the program and they review it. So I think one of the biggest challenges I had when I started working with parents was finding a group of parents or parents who wanted to come back and continue the work. So once you start building a relationship with the parents, then you have those parents that are willing to come back.
Yeah,
And I think the cool part about it is that the parents that we currently have, we have one that has been with us for about 10 years.
yeah,
And both of her daughters graduated and she's still volunteering because she loves the work so much. Um, but I think in the migrant program, the best part about, the program itself is that the parents are able to say, hey, I would love to spend some funding doing this, or I would love to do, for example, like an event. I would love to recognize students and do a celebration of the migrant students who are graduating. So they bring up the ideas, and our role or my role is to help them bring those ideas to life, whether that's coordinating an event or reaching out to the ESD to see if there's something that we can do to work together.
yeah.
But the parents are the ones that are driving the
Yeah.
program and the students, of course.
I love hearing that. We're a small community here in Quincy, and it is so important to have that parental involvement. And I think it's probably true in all communities, but you've got that small pocket of people who are willing to volunteer and volunteer beyond the days of their own students being there. You just have to grab onto them and say, yes, 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 let's do this. So I love that parental involvement. I think it's crucial. So we were there with our kiddos when they were in the school district, and not so much anymore. But it may be in different ways in the community. But yeah, I'm glad you've got a good solid group. So okay, so let's talk a little bit then about the PAC. And this is a program that is actually not just in the district; it's like in every single school. Is that correct?
Yes. So I guess I forgot to mention, so the migrant pack is statewide.
Okay.
And they do have a state advisory committee for the
Okay.
migrant program. But
Okay.
we noticed that the framework of the program works so well within the program. And so, we were talking and I was like, you know what, we should implement some of what we're doing in the migrant program district-wide. I think it'd be a great opportunity for families to share their voice. And there's so many times where if you just have one group of parents, you always target that same group and then they're like swamped with a bunch of questions and activities and things, and you burn them out. So I was like, you know what, this is a great opportunity to explore other ways of bringing more parents into the buildings. So then we decided to do the building parent advisory committees. And
Okay.
so we have a total of 5 elementaries. We have the middle school, high school, and we have a Quincy Innovation Academy. And
Mhm.
all of those buildings have a parent advisory committee. So
That's terrific.
yeah, it is. I mean, it's been pretty awesome to see how those parents from those committees are also coming back once they start building those relationships with their principals and with the staff. And, and you can see, it is proven that if you have good parent engagement, you're more likely to have a successful student,
Yeah.
if you are involved than if you're not. So that's where we're going. We're wanting our students to be successful.
Yeah, yo, 100%. I agree with that statement. So, I have to ask a question, not only for myself, but for our viewers. What are you doing to entice the parents to join those committees?
That's a good question. You know,
Thank you.
Carrie, I think it's all, I mean, I lived in Quincy almost my whole life. I came here when I was 11 and we never left. We stayed, and I love Quincy, you know, that's why we still live here. But I think it's building the relationship. It starts, you know, when a parent walks in the door and they ask you for a question and you say, I'm gonna get back to you. It's important to get back to them. Even if you don't have an answer, you still have to be like, hey, you know, I'm not forgetting about you. I may not have your answer yet, but I'm working on it. And I think that building those relationships start, you know, the moment a parent walks in the door. And so for me, it has been crucial to be able to do that. It has been very important that if a parent reaches out to me, I'm getting back to them. And I do tell them if I'm not able to do something, I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm super busy right now, but I can send you or take you to where you need to go. So I think that's part of what makes this so successful is that it's not just me, but you know, in our district, it's become something that we talk about all the time, you know, how important it is to create a welcoming environment where they feel like they belong, just like their students.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. It gives me all the little warm, fuzzy feelings because number one, you just hit the nail on the head of like, it's like the bullseye of customer service. Like, I might not know the answer, but guess what? I'm going to do everything I can to find it and get back to you. And I will even do that if I can't find it. And maybe we can come up with, you know, an answer ourselves. And I love that. And honestly, I got to give Quincy credit. And I'm not giving any other district credit. It's just the one that I know since our students, my husband and I, our little girls went through there and now are grown women. But back in their time frame, we had learning improvement teams. So every single building had a learning improvement team. And, you know, one of our daughters needed some extra assistance academically. And it was really important to us to be involved to make sure that, especially our daughter, but really all the students that needed an extra hand academically in one way or another were able to get it and that they had a voice. And so I love to see this progression and continuation of that for our district. And I mean, you know, from what I see in my career and my role with the NCSD, you know, Quincy really is held to a high standard, and they set the pace for a lot of districts in the region. So hats off to all of you for doing that, and thank you, and to all your parents volunteers. Hopefully, they get to see this as well. So.
Thank you. I will be
Um,
sharing with them for sure.
Good, 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 good. Well, listen, we've got two more groups to go through, programs that we want to talk about. So the next one, I'm super interested because I actually really don't know much about this. So you host or facilitate family superintendent meetings. So what happens during a meeting like that? And you know, how is this bridging the gap for our district and our families and our community?
So the family superintendent committees started once we had our parent advisory committees at the building level. You know, we started thinking about how we can bring that voice to the superintendent in a way where it's not super formal, where they, you know, parents still feel comfortable, but where they still have some formality, you know. So we started exploring ideas. And so Dr. Bergman is amazing. And he was like, you know what, Maria? I really want to do this. I really want to meet with the parents. I want to hear their voice. And I think this is our second or third year, if you know, years
Yeah.
blend in.
Yes.
But I think I want to say it's our third year doing the superintendent meetings. And what we do is we invite all the parents that are currently attending the PACs.
Mhm.
They are able to come and they share celebrations, they share concerns, and they also learn a little bit about what the district is doing. So, like I said before, I feel like if we ever need to hear the voice of the families, they're used to sharing their voice. So it's not just us reaching out saying, hey, can you do this survey? it's more of like, oh, I do that so often, it's more like a conversation. They have a voice on, for example, we had our family survey recently. So they get to review a lot of the things that we are sending to the rest of the parents in that committee. They get to see it firsthand and they get to share, like, yeah, I don't think I like this question, it might be a little uncomfortable, or maybe you should add this. And it's not just in surveys, like they also have access to, like, for example, the information that we get from the Panorama survey for our students.
Mhm.
The parents get to see that information district-wide, but they also see it at the building level. So they get to compare. And they're just gaining so much knowledge about the district and their students. And I feel like that just empowers them to want to come back and continue learning and continue engaging and supporting their students. So I think it all kind of goes hand in hand. But I will have to say for this one that Dr. Bergman has been amazing at, being there and listening to the families and making them feel comfortable and welcome when they show up at the meetings. And, we usually have a turnout we plan for 50 parents, but usually we have between 25-ish to 30-ish, depending on which meeting it is. So
Mhm.
I think it's a great, amount of parents, especially because it's such a small targeted audience that we invite to those meetings.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to back you up on that 100%. Dr. Bergman is amazing, and he, couldn't be more ingrained in our community. And that means attending and listening and, reacting. And he's amazing. So hats off to Dr. Bergman, Superintendent Bergman, for sure. Yeah, I think we're pretty lucky to have him.
Yeah,
So.
we are.
And I have to say on the side, because this has been going on for a little while, but he was very instrumental. I mean, he was kind of the key in kind of bringing that unity of our logo and, kind of starting to build that team spirit within our community and our schools. So, yeah, Nick's a great guy. Lucky to have him. And you know what? I'm guessing, this interview, we would talk about kind of the openness and the transparency and the communication. Those meetings might get a little bit bigger after this.
I'm hoping they will. Yeah, I think they will. And I think what makes this meeting special is that, like, I always tell the parents, I'm like, you're getting to, to share your voice, and you also get to see face to face with, the superintendent. So one thing I love about Nick is that once he meets a parent, like he will, if he runs into them, no matter where it is, he will say hi to them and be like, oh, I remember you from, so I think
Yeah.
that is that's a really cool thing. Parents love that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I know it draws on your time, no matter who you are, superintendent, principal, teacher. But the fact that he's so gracious with that time and so kind and fun, that, it's really great, because not every school district has that. Not every
Mm,
school district offers that type of access to their
yeah.
superintendent. And again, I think it speaks to this community, and it speaks to Dr. Bergman. I want to keep saying Nick, but it is, it's just, I think, an incredible opportunity that a lot of people maybe not even don't even realize, like, wow, this is actually kind of a really cool thing that we've got this type of access to our superintendent. So yeah, hats off to all of you for that. That's incredible. So all right, we got to quit talking about Nick, right? We don't want him to know how much we like him. So
Yeah.
let's keep the heat on. So anyways, okay, so that's a really terrific, program for sure. And like I said, you might have a bigger attendance after this, but let's move on to the next program. So parent liaisons, what is that? Tell us more about that aspect, that program.
So the parent liaisons are like, mm, they're the face of the building. There is a parent liaison at each one of the buildings, and they are perceived as a secretary because they do a lot of what, a secretary would do, answering
Sure.
phones, but they do a lot of outreach to the families as well. So a
Mhm.
secretary is so busy doing, a lot of the secretarial work, like purchase orders and things like that. So
Yeah.
having a parent liaison has allowed for us to be able to make that contact with the parents.
Mhm.
If they, for example, instead of waiting for something bad to happen, we might have a teacher who says, hey, I really want to call this parent and let them know that this student is doing an amazing job. So they will
Ah,
be the ones who do that. Or even if we have a new family and, there's some type of like, oh, I don't know that I really want to enroll my kid here or something like that. And then we have the parent liaisons who will reach out to that family and be like, hey, you know, you did a great choice by enrolling your student here. Welcome to our school.
oh
So
yeah.
that's kind of what our parent liaisons do. They do a lot more, don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah.
just highlighting the outreach part of it or the engagement part of it, but they do so much for our buildings. And like
Yeah.
I said, they are the face of the building. So when I talk about creating a welcoming environment, I always think of our parent liaisons because they
Yeah.
are the ones who parents walk to and say, hey, can you help me with this? And
Mhm.
they go above and beyond, honestly.
Yeah. I'm just a tad older than you are, and when I was a kid, we moved around quite a bit, my family, and every time we landed in a new community, there was this thing called the welcome wagon, and it was a group of, neighbors who would come around. Maybe they'd bring cookies or bread or pie or whatever, that baking theme again, and welcome us into the new area that we had moved. And I've always said, a lot of people kind of, pick on Quincy, like, why would you want to live in Quincy? There's not a lot of this, there's not a lot of that. However, it is the people here that make it so incredible. And I know you and I can speak to that. So to have that within each of the school buildings is incredible. So, first of all, I have to say, yep, love that. And second of all, for any of our viewers who are watching this and are from Quincy and maybe want to get involved, how could they say, hey, I want to be a part of this?
If they want to be a part of the pack, they can just go to their buildings and say, hey, I want to be a part of the pack. And we invite every single parent at every building to attend the pack meetings. So right now they are meeting quarterly. They were doing it monthly, but since there's also a PBC, we didn't want to like overload them with, meetings. So they're doing like every other month.
Okay.
And there is a schedule that is set. So they talk to the families. So like at the end of this school year, we'll be talking to families about, what works best for next year. Do you want to meet at this time? I think that's also part of what makes it work is we always ask our parents, what is best for you guys? What time works best for you?
Yeah.
Do you want to be here on Friday? Do you want to be here on Thursday? So that is planned this year for the upcoming year. And then we
Mhm.
share that in our district calendar. So parents have it ahead of time and they can
Very
plan
nice.
for it.
So then another question I'm thinking of, especially for PAC, is does it work both ways? If parents of students have thoughts or ideas, can they then utilize that liaison to take that, question or idea to the school administration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I think that's part of what makes it more powerful is that sometimes there are parents who don't really feel comfortable, sitting in a meeting for an hour to share their thoughts and ideas. And
Yeah.
if they come to, like, let's say, Lisette, for example, and they're like, hey, Lisette, I really would love to do a fundraising.
Mhm.
How do I do that? And then, Lisette can be the voice who brings it to the rest of the parents or to the principal, and then they kind of go from there. Or, I don't know, sometimes they're like, I just want to donate something. I want to donate food, or I want, so it's always, I feel like those parents already have that connection with the parent liaison, so they will come to the parent liaison or the secretaries. But like I said, the secretaries are super busy, so sometimes it's easier to have access to a parent liaison.
Yeah, very nice. So that actually brings up another thought in my mind. When our students are in school, there are so many needs. Does each of these buildings have kind of like a need or a wish list, so that families kind of know, like, oh, hey, this is coming up. They need me to make some cookies, or the senior class party, the all night, drug and alcohol free party is coming up, and they need volunteers for this. Does it work that way as also?
So that actually depends. Like I said, they do have the PBC. So
Mhm.
like for the senior night, what the parent liaisons would do is they would collect the information from the parents of what they want to be sent out to the parents,
Mhm.
building wide. And so they collect that information and then they just send it on a remind message. So that's how they would collaborate with the parents that are coordinating it. If
Yeah.
it's a PBC activity, it's a little bit more complicated, but if it's something that's happening, that's being done by the PAC, then that's a little bit different because it's more like more of a district event than a
Yeah.
PBC event.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, we're speaking very, specifically about Quincy because that's where you're at. But I'm also thinking that, the NCESD, we cover 29 different school districts. You might be getting some questions from other districts on, like, hey, how can I do this in my district? So
Mhm.
I appreciate the deep dive into this. So, but I do want to move on because we're kind of winding down time wise already. I knew it was going to happen. But this is one of my favorite questions. And I think in the last session of the MVP, it didn't make sense to ask this question. So I'm back at it for the eighth session. Um, the work that you do is so integral with all of with students and with parents, which means you're really out there and you're really hearing about students and their needs and families and their needs. Is there a story that you can share with us that kind of speaks to the success of either a student or one of these programs that stayed with you, that not only kind of fills your soul, but maybe continues to fuel you to do this work that you do?
Um, I do have a story. I mean, there's many, but I
It's
think this one is probably one of my favorite ones. So in working with a parent, I was already doing recruitment at this time, and I remember doing a home visit, and I enrolled the family into the program, right? And I will never forget, the parent was asking me, she's like, I really want to learn English. I really want to know what I need to do in order to get what I used to have in Mexico.
Mhm.
And so when the parent mentioned that, I was like, so what are you saying, like you have credentials in Mexico? Because we have a lot of parents who might have a degree of construction, not construction, engineering or things like that. And so when they come here, that's not valid anymore. And so it's really difficult for them to get started. And so with this specific parent, she said that she had she was licensed, and a licensed accountant.
Okay.
And so when she mentioned that, I was like, I think that's gonna be a little tricky to do it here, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. So I remember at that time it wasn't Inspire, it was Early Childhood Education Center or
Hmm.
Migrant. I can't remember what it used to be called, but I reached out to Imelda and I asked her, I was like, hey, can you help me find out what we need to do for this parent to revalidate the license that she currently has in Mexico. So we kind of helped her with that, and she ended up being able to get her GED through that program. And
Yep.
so now she is working for Inspire, because
Nice.
she was able to do that. And it may not be the same thing that she was doing when she was in Mexico, but the fact that we were able to help her get, because she would tell me, she was like, "And it's not that I don't, working in the fields, it's not bad, but it's not what I'm used to doing. I have a degree and I
Right.
came here and I'm here with like nothing pretty much, and so being able to see how happy she was once she was able to work there, and then now her both of her daughters are graduated. So it's very rewarding to see that. And I think it has made a big impact on why I wanted to continue doing the job that I do. But I can tell you that every parent that I work with helps me want to continue doing the work that I do. And I've always said that if I can touch at least one family, then I'm already feeling like, I have achieved so much because um, with my own family, we were part of the migrant program. And I can tell you that I made a huge difference with my parents, the support that we were able to receive.
Well, this is why I asked this question. I mean, it just cuts to the core, right, of everything that's human about the work that you do. And so we're going to have to end it here, believe it or not. We're already through our 30 minutes, but two things. One is thank you. Obviously, thank you for the work that you do. You certainly have touched many, many more than just one. And it just reiterates the entire idea of, listen, the more that we can open up and share and educate and skill everybody in our communities, right, the better it is, not only for them as individuals, but for our communities, for our state, for our country. So I just want to personally say thank you because I'm a Quincy resident. So thank you so much for doing what you do with our district and our kiddos. And again, congratulations. No wonder, you won the Employee of the Year. And I appreciate you coming on and being my MVP today.
Oh, thank you so much. Hope we can see you this weekend at the festival.
Yeah, tell us about the festival. Yeah, give us the information. What's
Oh
happening?
yeah, this is like one of our largest events in the district. We have a parade on Saturday, April 26th. It starts at 2 and we start right next to the Quincy Swim and Gym. I believe it's B Street and I could be wrong.
Yep.
But and then we walk over to the middle school where we have about 36 vendors who come and share resources with our families. So hopefully, you guys are able to join us and it's a really fun event and it's full of culture, full of fun, full of family, full of learning. So we would love to have you guys at the event this weekend.
Excellent. All right. Well, there's the call out. We will make sure that this interview gets spread far and wide. Everybody, please come in to Quincy and join us, join the event. And Maria, thank you again for being MVP today.
Thank you.